Boy, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second game of our double header here today. Of course, we got to finish with South America, Garfo winning 3-0 against Faca, and now move on to North America. We have Tanuki Tapire taking on Amplify, two teams which had pretty different stories when it came to last season, but going into today, it's a 1-1 versus 1-2 situation right here. So at the very least, you could say both these teams have proven they can come out here and get a win early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a really important game, especially in the early part of this season. And more importantly, probably for Amplify, because they're already sitting 1-2 on the season. So getting that third loss here necessarily isn't the worst thing, but it does kind of put you down there to where a lot of teams and a lot of people are probably going to be expecting maybe a little bit more, or probably expecting you might be a little bit of an easier opponent here. But this Amplify team, I mean, hey, we saw them last season. They struggled, able to keep themselves in that master tier. And right now, I mean, I think the Stars are a little bit better than what we saw from them last season. Tanuki Tapire, on the other hand, been a really good team, Only played 2 games so far. That's why they sit at 1-1. We were originally supposed to cover their game yesterday, but that game got moved to September, I think, 14th or 12th. It's one of those Sundays. So that game got moved. So this is technically only their third game of the season.
Yeah, it is. And they got one more later this week going up against Daystar, so tough opponent waiting for them. But here with Amplify, I think this is really important for both teams. I think it's especially important for Amplify in the situation because their schedule doesn't really get any easier out the gate. But if you're Tanuki Tapire, the way your schedule is, this could be the beginning of a really good stretch for you in this situation. So, obviously hoping for some good stuff out of both these teams at the end of the day, because both of them need to have the situation to be able to prove themselves, because they both have wins. That's extremely important, which, let me say one thing right here, the quality of that win is questionable, but it's early on in the season, so you can't really justify that too much. You just have to take the face value of, oh, they have won a game with only a couple in. You just have to recognize that. And I'm definitely over-explaining this portion just a little bit. But it's important to recognize, like, hey, this early on in the season, you can't look too deeply into wins and losses.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, and when you're looking back at the end of the season, week 15, a win, it doesn't matter when it happened, will still count the same. So you'll take it. But right now, I mean, we talked about a little bit before our South American game tonight with Season 18 and the bevy of new stuff that got added, whether it be perks, whether it be minor changes, and whether it be, hey, the whole brand new hero, Wuyang. It's going to be really interesting to see how these teams have been able to practice so far. Granted, because yesterday the servers weren't necessarily the best, and there were a lot of game-breaking features. However, Wrecking Ball has been fixed, reintroduced. Hazard no longer can block anymore. One thing I'm still trying to figure out, though, can Cassidy still one-shot? I think I'm going to say no, but it's going to be interesting to see tonight if that does happen.
I mean, I think at this point we can say no. We saw a fair amount of Cassidy earlier, and Cassidy, let's be fair, could do a lot of stuff in the scenario. We saw it constantly throughout that series. So we'll see if that's going to translate over in the situation, as we're going to wait for our first map pick, which is going to be Amplified. That's going to select where we go first and foremost. And, well, now we've seen every map at least once, which, you know, is convenient to see. Last season, it was very, pretty heavily dominant with, Oasis for quite a while. And, you know, to be fair, with us having the same map pool as we had last season, I like the fact that we're already seeing a bunch of different control maps, and not just the same exact one over and over again.
Yeah, because it really lets you know that these teams might have different strategies for different maps, and hey, some of these teams might expect that maybe this other team didn't try it out or practice these other maps. So you always want to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity. But it looks like Amplify has chosen to bring us to Oasis here to start off. Well, Hunter, me and you saw Busan in South America. Oasis seems to be the kind of go-to map here in the North American region, which is not necessarily a big surprise. I feel like we've seen this map more than any. I believe, though, I think it was last Friday, we saw an Ilios, which was really, really fun. But Oasis, I mean, we talked about a lot, especially during the playoffs that me and you were able to cast. Like, this is a map that is really gets you down to the fundamentals of this game. There's really good high grounds, really good low grounds, a lot of small rooms. There's just so much you can do here that really makes every kind of pick worth it, or worth more.
No, 100% it is. That's the kind of map that I think should really represent control at the end of the day, because you have certain maps where it's like, yeah, you can run it down with the same comp for all 3 points. Oasis is quite different in that way, in a sense where you can try to force it, but you're not going to be able to run a comp the same effectivity if you did it on City Center compared to doing it on University. They're just fundamentally different. It just comes down to you being able to show off your flexibility right out the gate, which, to be fair, from a lot of the teams we've seen this season already, have been able to do so pretty effectively.
Absolutely. Looks like the 2 bans came in so quickly that I did not even get to see the first one here. So that's going to be fun to figure out what they were. But, I mean, heading into Oasis, I mean, it's very interesting just to see what we want here, or what these teams want to play. Because we talk about a lot, especially with all these control maps. You can play basically any kind of composition you want, but it always kind of leans a little bit more towards one just kind of going through one. Wow, I cannot talk right now. Only one kind of composition actually going through the entire map. Well, granted, two maps are very good dive maps. A lot of the times you'll just see these teams go straight brawl, and I don't disagree with that. I feel like it's a very good strategy. But unless Hazard's banned, I feel like we could see Hazard a decent amount here, or probably just the Orisa.
Yeah, the Orisa is really likely in a scenario like this. Ramattra, despite the bug now being fixed and taken care of, I think can still be decently effective. You might see some teams still kind of gravitate towards that, because with all the swapping, the quote-unquote meta, which it feels nowadays in 2025, it's hard to call a singular comp meta due to the bans and everything that we have nowadays, but there are heroes that have heavy preference, which now for the second game in a row, Dex, we have a Brigitte ban, which, I mean, to be fair, a very reasonable ban, all things considered.
Yeah, very reasonable. But again, for this map in general, it feels very interesting because you're looking at this as one of these teams probably likes to prefer to run dive a little bit more than the other. So get rid of the Brig. You really don't have that good pocket or that good kind of duo with the Ana. Granted, though, you could just replace the Brig with something like a Kiriko, a Juno, a Lucio, just to try to make sure your Ana does have that opportunity to get out of some sticky situations if you do want to play that. That is. It's going to be really interesting. Cassidy, though, not necessarily a big surprise. Cassidy has been strong, and it has been strong up until even before Season 18 got here. And even with the new perks, I mean, you got the double flashbang perk now as a minor perk, which is really interesting. You still have one of the old minor perks where you get, I believe it's 20 health per second that you're in your Deadeye, which is, again, really good. So it's going to be interesting to see that kind of dynamic for these two teams here very early on. But remember, Cassidy banned out.
Yeah, and I like Cassidy really strong right now. It was already really strong before going into, this season. And I think with the changes, it's going to be even stronger. And honestly, I think in a lot of scenarios might gravitate towards being a must-pick in some situations. That wouldn't surprise me in the absolute slightest. But obviously not going to be able to see it out the gate here. And for one of these teams, it might prove the difference, honestly. Because if Cassidy being already good, if you knew that was going to be amplified anyway, no pun intended, you would definitely set your sights on practicing that as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, absolutely. But with no Cassidy, this map, expect to see Sojourns, expect to see Ashe, Hanzo, Freya. Hell, we even saw Soldier in our South American series for a little bit. Oh, yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see what these two teams pick up. I feel like, though, without Cassidy, it just seems like Freya, or my bad, no, Soj is always the way to go. But Freya on this map could get some play. Maybe not the map that we're starting on, but could get definitely some play throughout this map at some point.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we'll see momentarily, so no Coke Zero for me. Everyone wanted a drink before they got started, but we're just going to go anyway. But either way, out the gate here, you see the double Symmetra, which, Dex, you know what that usually means. Usually double TP, double swap to Tracer.
Yep, double swap to Tracer. And we do see Squeak up for the side. I believe that is Amplify. Actually, no, my bad. Wait, yeah. Well, you see Squeak showing us the Queen. Other than that, I mean, pretty kind of what I expected without the Brig. You get rid of the Ana. But you have Lucio Bap, and Lucio Kiriko, which is not a big surprise. But there's those doubles Sims going over to Tracers here, and it looks like they're going to be vying for high ground.
Yeah, not surprising in the slightest, but Gap, he's going to be there first. You see the immediate jump by Squeak to try to take over a little bit more space. Sky Sniper going to be forced out of the fight, as you're going to see Amplify be pushed back harder and harder, as eventually You're hoping Tapire can kind of go in and get somebody, as Otters ends up being the first casualty here of this matchup. Recall to be forced away by Biz, who unfortunately is not going to get out, as eventually looks like Amplify will fall apart.
Tanuki just doing a good job at least contesting this out for long enough, but eventually Gaps can get DMAC'd right here, and it'll just go straight over to Amplify, which is a really great start here for them. Actually, my bad, for Tanuki. Especially after that fight. They just need to get something going their way, but you look at the ultimates here right now, Consequence already getting off of the BAP, going over to Kiriko instead. Understand that the burst healing was not necessarily going to be enough here for them, and Kiriko, especially playing with that D.Va, is going to work out a little bit better here for Amplify. I just think, unless you're going to be kind of near your D.Va, it's going to be very difficult for them to really do anything. But Virtual already finding Biz out.
Yeah, unfortunate loss to have this early on within the engagement. As you can see, everybody from Amplify, so they're going to get out of this engagement as Sky Sniper hanging around on that Genji. Former Amplify going up against their old team is so far starting strong.
Yeah, right now, I mean, you can see them. They're playing kind of slow here. They just want to get reset back up here. What Amplify really wants to do. But right now, I mean, Tanuki doing everything right here. They're basically just waiting for them to go in, and yet you still end up finding one in the back line.
Yeah, and gonna have a nice little pause right there. That's gonna be fantastical, and we'll cut back over really quick as that gets figured out. Not sure what happened yet. Potentially a DC though.
No, it's just Curious Mouse is spinning out.
Ah, you know, that's
so
nice.
Consequence might be having a small issue
Gotcha.
here, but I mean, right now you can just see it. Tanuki is playing really well. I feel like this Jungle Queen kind of composition, this Jungle Queen composition they're running is going to make it very difficult for anyone on the side of Amplify to really find good angles again, especially Gap. Because if you try to go past them, you're just going to get the knife thrown at you and you're going to be pulled back. It's going to be very difficult for you to kind of coordinate these dives out here without a lot of other help. But if you are Amplify here, I mean, you need to find something else, whether it be just completely negating or completely forgetting about Squeak and going after that back line. It could happen, but again, they're playing a very mobile backline. It's hard to find someone out. That's why they're probably wanting to focus in on Squeak or someone like Sky Sniper or Proven, who are kind of just sitting, going off on their own kind of adventure right now. I mean, you already see Proven finding one as we head back in here, but only 55% on the board right now. Gap getting DMAC, not what you want to see. Ivory though will find one.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hex hanging around on the point is eventually going to get some care as Biz is be forced away, but unfortunately, all this means nothing as Gap gonna miss out on getting the rematch, and now with 75 or 70%, this is Final Fight territory.
Final Fight territory, but here's the thing: you're coming up to ultimates. Gap though making swap over to the Hazard. I thought this would be something that we would see at some point this map. I think they made the right time. They're choosing the right time to get the swap, but it might not be necessarily good for this point. I think it might be building up more for next one, but ultimates are online for a lot of members here. You're about to see 8 ultimates outside of Consequence. There's probably 7 good ultimates ready to go here as Biz tries to backcap.
Yeah, we're trading around a little bit here. Beat being activated. Hex getting dangerously low to being taken down, is able to get that off just in time as Biz gonna be forced to recall as people have to eventually force to be on the point with Gap over on that Hazard now, hoping to survive. Unfortunately, it's just getting pelted away. No mega health back to speak of, and their team is falling apart around them as Virtual has got not 1, but 2. As a few more dashes away for Sky Snipers, they'll have cleared around, and that is a clean first round here to get started for Tapire.
A really good first round here for Tanuki. I mean, they did everything they wanted to do and more there. They kind of controlled the entire point. There was only brief moments where Amplify seemed to have any kind of control going their way, and it was really only that first fight where Amplify might have been able to do something, but once they lost that fight, they were just kind of going back uphill, never able to get anything really going their way. And now, though, heading into University, a little bit more of a brawl-heavy map. Squeak probably not going to make the swap here, and I don't expect Gap to swap either. But you see Biz, the only one at the moment making a swap over to the Mei, and I like this, especially just being able to wall off Squeak from their healers might be exactly what you need to get some momentum going your way here right now if you Amplify.
Yeah, 100%. I like the adjustment right out the gate, but this means no TP, and Proven's going to TP everybody out, which means if they're going for that high ground, they're going to get there first with absolute ease. And now, if you're Amplify, you can't really do much to take over this high ground. You're going to have to play the point here and just hope you can set up in a way where you can stop Tapire from coming in and rotating aggressively.
I mean, you see the split already here. Both two members go on one side, three members go on the other, but Lucio, not in a good spot.
Yeah, caught out pretty early on there. Tried going with a long rotation to try to help pin her in. Unfortunately, doesn't work off as wall is activated there by Fizz. Of course, Sky Sniper going to go, and unfortunately, Squeak is already down. So first fight win going to be on the board here for Amplify as Sky Sniper just going to try to get out of there alive.
And all that came off the back of losing Hex first. That split did not go their way. They really need to stay as one team and try to rotate around the entire point. You even saw it there. Amplify was going to be playing from point anyway, and it wasn't going to really work out for them. But I felt like the fact that Tanuki made that split gave Amplify the opening they were looking for to really get something going there, and it ended up paying off for them. But right now, I mean, you already see members of Tanuki just trying to get in that backline. Fizz very low.
Yeah, unfortunately, just didn't have their block to work with. As a consequence, not going to be far behind, as it's just going to be the cleanup on the way. Ivory just going to have to try to get out of dodge. Gap does get Hex on the way out. Won't matter too much, though, but it will get Gap to their ultimate.
Ooh, Ivory finding Proven right there does help them out a little bit. You do see Gap back into the picture. And if you are Amplify here, you should try to play fast. You're going to have a down point not that far away from a Kitsune Rush. So you should be able to try to find a quick team fight here if you really want to, but they're slow playing it at the moment.
Yeah, they are getting pushed back pretty hard, so it's a bit understandable. Gap really goes into the hole right now, is waiting for an opportunity to use that forward down, and essentially they're going to get the flip for free here, but Kitsune Rush does kind of keep them to turn momentarily as Sky's never able to go underground just in time, as Gap is basically going to solo out Squeak here, who's being thrown around, doesn't have the shout, will get deleted, and now Amplify getting momentum back into their favor as supports just gonna have to take a long death onto the point here as they're hanging around, but they're hanging around and they're getting killed off one by one.
And right now, the only one that's gonna be able to escape is probably Proven, who, I mean, you can kind of see him as hanging out in the lower part of the map here. But I mean, hey, that's exactly what Amplify need there. Yeah, they use 2 ultimates, but hey, you're holding on to 3, and I'm mostly looking at that Blizzard here. That's going to be something that will find a lot of value unless Squeak is able to spear spin it out of existence. Hex will have to use that Blizzard or the beat there to really make sure that no one dies from, but Proven falling early.
Yeah, not the best case scenario, and now you need to worry about keeping everybody alive because this is back to Final Fight territory. If you lose anybody here, there's nothing you can do. You still have to proceed with that fight and push on.
Final Fight coming up here. You know they have the Blizzard. You know they have a beat. You know they have the overclock. Do they have anything else, though, right now is what Tanuki's trying to figure out. But it doesn't really matter. You have to just get to the point first anyway. And Sky Sniper looks like they're going to be their touch.
Yep, B going to be activated. Otto's going to be able to get it out as well. As Sky Sniper hoping to find some receipts, Proven extremely low right now, and it could be on the back of Biz, who's got a freeze, who has Hex right where they want them. Hex barely gets out in time, but not going to matter. As they're trying to put bodies on, trying to force a flip right now. If you're Tanuki, unfortunately, it's not happening. A Kitsune Rush gonna bring us to a 3rd round here as Proven doing a really good job of getting touches. Unfortunately, not able to get another. As like I said, we're gonna get over to City Center to determine the winner of our first match.
Yeah, a good bounce back round there from Amplify, but here's going to be the biggest problem. I don't think you're going to be able to have May here if you're Biz. I think you're going to have to make the swap over something else. This is a much bigger point, a much bigger map just in general. May will still find a decent amount of value, but I just don't think it's going to find the same amount of value you found there on University. But other than that, I mean, you saw everyone else there for this Amplify team really step up. Ivory really took a big step forward. Gap really started to take a lot of space there on that Hazard. And like I said, the Hazard swap late on that first point was probably the right move to do it then to at least get those perks starting to build up there. But now, coming out of the gate, no big swaps here for Amplify. I thought Biz would potentially get off the May, but no, they're going to stick with it. And no big swaps other than Squeak going over to the Winston here now on this map. I like the dive capability here from them, but we saw it a little bit earlier in South America, Hunter. That Winston, once that bubble kind of goes away and they don't have that jump, are just sitting ducks.
Yeah, that's why you have to be very careful as to how you effectively dive. The thing about the Winston is you typically want to go first. It's different when you're going into another Winston. You can focus on counter dive elements, but that's not the case here with a Hazard. You have to go first and catch somebody off guard right here. I like this kind of dive format, though, where Gap is basically putting themselves in a really unnecessary, like, 1v3. Barely escapes thanks to a wall. As point been open up for some time, as you're going to see Gap be taken care of, and consequence not far behind. Should be a start here, but Ivory does manage to get 2 before getting taken out.
Yeah, and you called it out right there. Gap maybe overextend themselves just a little bit, put themselves into a bad spot, try to actually dive on to Virtual, who they did force a TP out, but that also put Gap in a spot where Virtual, Squeak, and I believe Proven was right there to really melt them down. And not only, well, Gap was able to get out, however, it was Otters that was not able to get out. Otters had to go rotate around the long way and need Consequence come help them get back up to full health, making sure that Gap could not get any healing, kind of putting Amplify in a really bad spot in that first fight, but you're already seeing him back in here for fight number 2, and Squeak is already low.
Yeah, speaking of a bad spot, has to jump out entirely. Proven has hit the recall as well, and Ivory's going to take this opportunity to walk up front with the rest of their players, and it looks like they might be able to take this point for free. You see the rest of the members just trying to slowly slip on and off, on and on and off, trying to stall for as long as possible, but now Virtual gonna get things going with a Kitsune Rush. Hoping to drill them down as Proven has a pulse bomb ready to go. No cleanse to stop it either, so if this sticks, it's gonna stick big.
Already 50% on counting here. There's the stick on to Ivory, and that's the one person you probably want to get out early here as the downpour comes out and finds no one.
Yeah, and now this is an excellent stall game overall. This has lasted so long as now you've gotten one ult out of them. You've only had to trade 2 between the Pulse Bomb and the Kitsune Rush, and now you're going to have to figure around the corner. This is literally exactly how to rid up as Otters goes for a drive.
Kitsune Rush is out here, and right now I understand why Amplify is going in on this, but you really should just try to back out and regroup. I mean, you lose Biz, but you get the trade. You're going to stay in this fight because of that.
Ooh, and that's a great job by Ivory off the top rope. Able to take care of some business, but Consequences is literally in the middle of nowhere. No cooldowns remaining. Should eventually be hunted down as B comes out, but Squeak's able to get it just in time. And now, Dex, it could genuinely go either way, but you should eventually see Amplify stabilize a little bit, but Sky Sniper could deal the final blow with this blade.
Squeak has played an excellent map so far on this one. Hasn't died just yet. Now the blade out from Sky.
Yeah, and it gets 2 right out the gate. Gap potentially not far behind. As it's an unfortunate set of circumstances for Amplify as they're throwing themselves onto the point one after another, but there's no ultimates available. This Tanuki team coming in strong, gonna finish it strong as well as they take our first map. And for Amplify, just a big misplay here on this map.
A big misplay, but I mean, I don't think it was necessarily, I won't necessarily say it was that bad of one. I think it was just, everything kind of stems from that first fight on that one where Gap might have just overextended themselves too far and was really baited into it. And then you just saw from there on out, Tanuki was just able to kind of control the rest of the map from there. They played spaced out. Yeah, Ivory was able to find kills here and there throughout that round to really help their team out. But the fact that Squeak never died on that Winston did so much there for Tanuki. Amplify, they just could not get rid of the Winston. And if they did once, you probably would have seen that point flip. And it just didn't happen there. But hey, a really good map there for Tanuki. Amplify, though, they did show us that they can keep this series close. But right now, we're seeing that Winston might be their biggest problem.
Yeah, and there are a few ways to get rid of Winston, and obviously one of those is doing a ban. The other way is to go to a map where it's less effective, and I think the map that they have chosen here is one of those maps. Is they're taking over to Circuit Royale. This is a place where we normally see either like the Ramatra, the Sigma, or Risa, even. I think even occasional. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if I have seen the Hazard on here. I'm trying to recall a point, but regardless of that, like I said, it's one of those maps where it kind of does rotate around those 2-3 tanks pretty heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we already see the first ban coming in. It's Juno. I believe we didn't see Juno at all in that first map, I believe.
Correct.
But we did see Juno a little bit earlier this evening in South America. But it's always interesting to see Juno because me and you have kind of talked about it. Juno has sort of fallen out of favor, or at least a lot of play. Juno's still, I feel like, in a good spot, but just kind of fallen out. But this, with how Circuit Royale is, it might be a really good, it actually is a good map for Juno, just being able to fly around and play around corners. But right now, I mean, it's a very interesting ban. Don't know what the second ban is. We will tell you what it is when we come out. But I'm looking at the stats right here, and I mean, outside of that second point, Biz kind of had a struggle. Mm-hmm. They really did. I believe all 5 of their elims came that second point. It was just a struggle for them. But like I said, Squeak was excellent that last map. Only 3 deaths that entire map there. I believe most of them came on that second point as well, where Amplify really did dominate.
Yeah, that's really what it ended up being the story of in that situation right there. And obviously that could set a tone right out the gate in a scenario like that. Sky Sniper came out there, ended up going 20-4 overall. I think had a really good performance to get things started on that Genji. So it's a scenario where honestly, I kind of put my brain to the work stand, realizing that I was going to make a point that I actually don't believe in. I was like, man, they could have banned Genji here, but it's like, I'd rather say that for a third or fourth map. It feels like it's one of those things where it's going to be less effective than something like the Sojourn, Ashe, etc. on a map like Circuit Royale.
Absolutely, but rosters are being still finalized here, so we're probably getting a couple subs in here for one of these teams. Both these teams do have 7 players, so there definitely could be subs in and out here through the night. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone that I noticed that was not in that first map, at least at the moment on the Faceit site, that's in. But it doesn't look like anyone just yet. But, I mean, the one thing I think Amplify needs to do, you just need a little bit more support there from your DPS line. I mean, Ivory, like I said, they really did pop off that second point and really did keep it going on that third point. And I talked about how Biz kind of struggled throughout that map. It seemed like the Mei really worked out for them. They really tried to stick with it on that third point. But like I said, the Mei was really going to struggle to truly find anything just because the control point and just that map in general is so big that there's just so many opportunities for people to escape an ice wall. Otters, I thought Otters on the other support there for Amplify, I thought they did a really good job. I thought they did everything they could do. It's sometimes just not enough here. But as we still wait, what do you think Tanuki really needs to do here heading into Circle Royale? Because this is always a map that me and you talk about seeing, like, we could see really, really unique kind of compositions, unique play styles. This is definitely a Lifeweaver map, a Yari map, a Sim map. It's really interesting to see what kind of heroes you could see here, especially, hey, Mei could come back out here. This is a really good Mei map.
I think this is, again, a scenario where a lot of what we saw from that first map was proven in Sky Sniper being able to dictate the pace a lot of the time. And this is one of those maps where DPS can very much take over a map like Circuit Royale. So you have to go in supporting them and giving them the avenue to have as many lanes as possible. I should say as much line of sight as humanly possible, which I think on a map like this, the way that Tanuki has been playing, I think they 100% can get away with.
Yeah, and speaking of line of sight, we are banning out one of those heroes here right now. Freya, didn't see her at all in map number 1. We're not going to see her at all in map number 2 either, as she is banned out here now. So that leaves Ashe, that leaves Cassidy, that leaves Soj still, and now potentially Hanzo as well, and Widow. If you want to play Widow, do see it here every now and then. Ooh, yeah. That's not good.
Huh. Yeah, that's not what you normally see. We'll go ahead. It's on. So, context. Faceit said the game is currently on hold, which it could be an issue on the side of Amplify, is my guess. Well, it could be either side. That timer for the roster swaps did go pretty much all the way down from 3 minutes to nothing. So perhaps there is a potential issue on one side where maybe a player is not there. All I can really do, what we can do, is make a reasonable assumption until we get more information.
Yeah, we did know that Consequence did have the problem with their mouse in that first map, so it could just be something, that mouse is rearing up again, or on the fritz again here. But I mean, Amplify, like I said, they did show us a little bit there on that first map that this could be a very close series, but it needs to be in the right situations. I mean, if you are keeping Biz in here for the second map, the Mei will definitely find a lot of value, especially on the first point defense. It will struggle a little bit on second point defense and then come back into it a little bit on third. But you really, when you play the Mei compositions, you really want, or Mei in your composition, you really want to try to make sure that you're holding on that first point.
Yeah, 100%. And we've seen that Mei be extremely effective. That have, even if it hasn't created a full hold, that takes a minute, 2 minutes off of that clock, which on a thing like second and third point is going to matter a lot. Because if you get held once, it is really hard to break through. That second point is literal hell to break through if you end up hitting the wall. How many times, Dex, have we seen a game end or a round end with that cart like halfway up the hill? Couldn't tell you.
Too many times. I always say, like, this, I believe second point push here on Circuit Royale might be one of the hardest pushes in any of the escort maps in the game. It's just because of the large height difference from when you start to where you end, and the large high ground advantage that the defensive team normally will find on this second point, especially without a sim, which we do see banned out a decent amount here. It becomes very hard to get up to that high ground. But I will say this: I don't know if sim's going to be very much viable on this map anymore, sadly, because they did get rid of the 20% added on or TP distance. So, I mean, you will still be able to TP, but it's just something where you have to be a lot closer to that ledge. But coming out of the gate here, it looks like, I believe, Dimitri was Dimitri in last map. Am I being dumb?
Dimitri, no. Dimitri has been subbed in this map. They're getting moved in for Squeak.
Yes. Okay, but you see here, I mean, we're going back to originally what this map was for a lot of people. A lot of people would always say, okay, we're playing Circuit, we're going to play Sigma. Sky Sniper, though, playing a Pharah, which we have seen a little bit more here recently in the past year. I'd say Pharah's getting a lot more play on this map, but Biz on the Mei, like I said, if you're going to play Mei on any map, this would be the map. Ivory, though, looking for that headshot, probably expecting to see that Pharah.
Yeah, and definitely know it's there, but I think the swap is going to be momentary here, as Sky Sniper knows. They know at this point. They're not going to peek away.
Yeah, right now, I mean, if you're Dimitri, you're backing up because you see Biz trying to take that front line, but nice ice wall for the shield to be able to save them right there. Ivory, though, sticking on the Widow. Again, any opening that you could find here is huge, so a Widow headshot might just get you that first point.
Yeah, it just might. Dimitri on the Sigma. Gonna have to help hold down this corner. It's gonna be really hard between a Zen, a Mei. This is everything being set up to shut down the tank as much and as fast as humanly possible. But for the time being, I was gonna say it's working out fine, but you've lost Hex. You don't have that speed to work with anymore, so now you just have pure Baptiste to work with.
But I always say when you lose your Lucio, it hurts you in the first couple seconds, but as time keeps go by, it actually isn't that big of a deal since Lucio can get back into the fight pretty fast here. You almost get rid of Proven, but they're able to get healed back up by that Baptiste, and look, Hex back into the fray here, especially as you get very close to this first point. Gap, though, needs some help.
Getting plenty of healing right now between their Bap and their Zen, as Ultimate's already a factor. Virtual out the gate has the ult. Pretty decent placing overall. Really hard to really mess with Virtual in the situation. Gap separated from the team is hopefully going to get some care from their squad, and they eventually will, as unfortunately with one down, they just have to back up and play safe.
But they got a huge trade there as well, getting rid of Proven. They would have been able to build their dragons in that fight, so but they're still going to be able to build up to it here soon. That Ant Matrix, I would have liked that Ant Matrix to be a little bit further up.
Yeah, oh, that's a beautiful wall as Dimitri has been eliminated. Sky Sniper has to keep running away. Unfortunately, you don't have any ultimate to work with here that could reasonably hold them off. But Gap does go forward to find the rock. Ivory does get one, and now you're holding on the point. Ivory's gotten rid of two. Gap's going to clean up, and that's going to be this first point unlocked. 4.5 minutes as Proven runs for the life.
Yeah, Proven going to be able to escape. You had Dimitri come back out to basically get them back to that safety. But if you're Tanuki here, you're not necessarily mad about that. I mean, you're able to get rid of Transcendence there from Otters. You got rid of Ant Matrix, the Visor coming out here. I mean, you're getting rid of ultimates right here as you're building up to a lot of your own. But Proven finds Blizzard. The Blizzard comes out.
Yeah, no one has gone down there. Dimitri does get frozen, but Dimitri is all the care in the world. Sky Sniper has to mind themselves a little bit. They go for broke. Ooh. Unfortunately, only thing broken is them. As you see a bunch of separation, Dimitri is going to go all out to try to find literally anything. Unfortunately, finds the one big body that wouldn't die instantly.
And right now, I mean, Amplify is still very much in control of this fight. The Ant Matrix coming out there from Virtual, not going to be able to find that much value potentially.
Yeah, but Gap wasn't. Yeah, Gap goes too far forward. Sky Sniper's already gotten rid of two. Proven is going to help with a cleanup, and there will be no survivors as consequence. Gonna get a nasty stagger here.
And this is what we always talk about on this map. If you lose going up the hill, it is very, very difficult for you to get back uphill, because you can see these defensive teams take these fights on the low ground. That cart is backing up. They know that if they stay here and keep this fight going on for long enough, they could afford to lose it and still get back out to the point to contest. And the only thing that Amplify has going their way right now is that Ant Matrix. Consequence might not want you to go up the hill. They just want to be able to force back this Tanuki squad just a little bit before they use it to try to maybe get out that beat from Hex.
Yeah, I mean, now it's out right here. Ivory immediately gets rid of Sky Sniper. Biz does get with that as they're going to go with the beat, and they're going to go super aggro as Sky Sniper getting a bit of respect in the chat as you go up, trying to run down Proven, getting frozen away, gets to one, eventually taken care of, and now on the back foot once again. Gonna be Tapire right now as Otters getting forced around out of the fight. Everything is chaotic, but still, Dex, they have to try to finalize one of these kills, and eventually they're gonna finalize most of them.
And And right now, I mean, like I said, you could still see a touch right here from Tanuki if they wanted to force it, but they're not going to force it. They understand this is a lost point. So it's going to be about 3.5 minutes here for Amplify to complete this map here. And I mean, Hunter, that's enough time to really get through all the chokes and you know, potentially complete the map with a decent time bank here. You have dragons, you're not that far away from Beat, Blizzard, and your own Flux here, so you're actually in a really good spot. But same thing could be said here for Tanuki, who's getting ready to probably use some of theirs.
Yeah, Dragon causes momentary separation. A solo dragon being thrown up right onto Gap, who takes all the damage in the world, still staying alive momentarily. Had that kinetic grasp as well as their shield ready to go, and now is going to float up with a Flux online for both of them, but Hex is gone. Prey's beginning to go back and forth as eventually we're in a 3v3 situation. No rock available. Gap just gonna have to take the hits, but he's still alive to tell the tale.
They have Otters right there to support them, but I mean, unless you can somehow get this kill onto Dimitri, you might need to just get out of this room. Dimitri's gonna be the one to exit here first, but they're still being bullied by a lot of the members of Amplify right there. But a minute off the time bank right there, not necessarily the worst thing in the world there for Tanuki, but still, you have a Beat, you have that Blizzard, you have that Flux, and now you're not that far away again from the Am Matrix. If you're Amplify, you're rounding the final curve to the home stretch here, and you feel really, really good right now, especially after that first map performance. Everything's starting to go your way now.
Yeah, now things get a little awkward here. 2:15 on the clock. You have a Beat, you have a Blizzard, you have an Ant Matrix, you have a Flux, you have everything in the kitchen sink to make this happen. A Sky Sniper in the background. They're going to get the assassination onto Ivory. As there's a hard investment. B comes up online. Going to get all 4 members remaining. As Gap be able to close in on Virtual. Now it's Sky Sniper having to clutch up with the Blade. Has got rid of one. Hoping to find a second within consequence. As they're eventually taken out by Proven. And now is a cleanup taking place on the point. As eventually the hold will come to place. And unfortunately, it is a big investment for Amplify that does not pay off.
It's a big investment for Amplify, but it's also a big investment for Tanuki. That's going to be the one positive thing you say there for Amplify. But yeah, it might be an investment that you might not be able to recuperate from here. You're only going to have a Dragon, and you're really hoping that Biz and Gap build up to their own ultimates as well here, because you have a Beat, you have a Blizzard, and Dimitri not that far away from that Flux. Could be just enough to really hold this cart here.
Yeah, 100%. Now with 115 on the board, starting to get slightly sketchier as Otters. Trying to hang around on that high ground, make it difficult to make any sort of transition right here. But again, it's going to be a cleanup here. Ivory let go of that Dragon as they're starting to move forward. It's going to cross map, basically cutting things off momentarily, but it's just Dimitri and Virtual who basically have to throw themselves onto the point, but getting rocked away. Moved away from the Matrix. Beat coming up from Hex only really manages to catch on to 1 or 2 people, including themselves. And now Dex, this is quickly turning into a stall game.
Blizzard coming out there from Biz might just be enough here to seal the deal. Everyone is going to go on that point. It's going to be slowed down. Virtual does find Gap, but you're seeing kills go back and forth here. Venture back out here for Sky Sniper just to stall. Dimitri on the Diva, not going to be able to get there in time. 3.5 minutes basically down to 30 seconds. You'll take that, honestly, if you are Tanuki. But hell, you will love to finish that map holding it there. But hey, Hunter, what was the one thing I said Amplify really needed coming into this map? It was a little bit more contribution from that DPS line. And honestly, we got that there. Ivory and Biz, they really stepped up, especially Biz. Remember, I kind of maybe harped them a little bit too much for their performance in map 1. Well, this map so far, they're 16-3. They are doing immensely better. And I feel like they're showing us right now they're very, very comfortable on that May. And we saw maybe Tanuki struggle with it a decent amount.
Yeah, that's what it really felt like in this scenario. Like, Proven and Sky Sniper had amazing first maps, but now 8-6 and 11-6 respectively. It still has a fair amount of damage, but you look at, again, what Biz is managing to accomplish, and it's just incredible seeing the turnaround that quickly in this series of events. Even on the tank side of things as well, while it has been kind of a little back and forth, Gap has stepped up again as well, has already blocked out 17,000 damage, which I know, mitigation damage on both sides, it is what it is, they're Sigmas, but still, they are taking that bad of a beating and still surviving so many fights.
Yeah, but Dimitri, I mean, they're coming in for the first map right here, 18,000 and 18,500 damage mitigated here. So they are doing just as well or better than Gap in that situation. But you're seeing the big difference in these teams here, just being able to apply a little bit more pressure. That's what we really saw a lot. But the TP out, oh, Biz! Oh, Biz is not in a good spot.
Yeah, Biz, buddy, you might wanna get in line because you might be getting sent to that spawn room, and eventually they will. And unfortunately, they are caught off guard in this scenario. Virtual self-killing, trying to keep their tank alive. Unfortunately, eventually going to be bursted away. So while the trades are going back and forth, honestly, this is playing exactly into the hands of Tanuki, who are just going to go make the swaps back and take that first corner.
And remember what I said, I didn't like, this has normally been a Symmetra map in the past, but with the removal of that perk that gave you a little bit extra TP distance, I didn't necessarily know how much we would see of Sim, but Proven decided to say, hey, we're going to keep the Sim. You're going to be ready for these teleporters. And right there, you saw coming out of the gate, Amplify was not ready. However, though, coming into this hold where we normally see it, Hunter, it's going to be very difficult because still, you could try TP into that backline, but they're going to be ready for it this time around.
Yeah, Rock gets eaten away. More so yeeted away, I should say, as Dimitri going to be able to build up towards their first flux extremely quickly, but Consequence might have to be the hero for Amplify. About to have this ult online, but unfortunately no Rock means everybody is exposed, everyone is in danger. Flux is there. Not going to get rid of anybody as Consequence is able to keep Gap alive, get them back to essentially full health to hang around as Ivory hoping to close things around. As Gap trying to hold down to the point, eventually going to get deleted. Bodies have to start fleeing on the point as Ivory has gotten rid of one. Unfortunately, they have to throw themselves on the card, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and Ivory did find two there, and that was the biggest thing. Like, if Ivory could have found, like, I thought Ivory was doing enough there to potentially hold it, but the moment you lost Gap is the moment you basically knew that fight, and that point was going to be given over here. Over 4.5 minutes now for Tanuki to keep on pushing, and, I mean, look, they have a Blizzard. They have the Photon Barrier, which the Photon Barrier, I think, was a very slept-on ultimate for a long time because, oh, it's just a shield, but I feel like a lot of people really started to utilize it a lot. Gap, though, making the biggest change here, going over to the Orisa, which is an interesting swap because, again, it's a hero that Symmetra can just build that beam off of.
Yeah, but this proves to me that they are going to try to play very fast when the opportunity. They're going to wait, have that speed in them, and then they're going to go in mega aggressive and try to go after Proven immediately. Unfortunately, that's a decision you normally have to make sooner rather than later as Freeze comes up online. Proven is just going to TP right out of it. But trades are coming through. Proven gets frozen anyway, but escapes. They're getting juked. The ankles are broken as it Blizz is sent back. Gets deleted, and oh my goodness.
Oh man, that's one of those highlight moments right there for Faceit. They need to get that right there. Because Proven, like you said, just kept on using those teleporters just to confuse Biz there. And Biz now giving up the May. We could see a touch coming out here from Ivory. But nice ice wall. Oh, and nice accretion.
Yeah, gets rocked away. Biz literally has to keep throwing themselves onto the point. They go double the portal opens right there. Everything being thrown in to make this happen right here, and Biz has been taken care of immediately by Proven, who made their way back into this fight. Literally 3/8 away, or 3/10 away, I should say, as Hex gonna finish off two more, as Ivory has to run for the hills, as nearly 5 minutes still on the clock.
Yeah, a much better round here for Tanuki. After really seeing Amplify come alive there that last round, they're proving that, like, hey, we can respond just as well as you guys did here, maybe even a little bit better. But right now, Biz getting off the sim after one life. I guess it was just a TP strategy to get everyone out there back over to the May. You have Terra Surge, you have Overclock ready for this fight if you are Amplify, but you really just need to be able to win a fight here just to slow everything down.
Yep, and interesting news very early on here from Virtual, sending all that heals directly into the back of Dimitri. Now it's Gap, who's caught out in the middle of nowhere, expending every cooldown to try to live, as eventually everyone's going to have to back off. Gap gonna get the necessary care to survive, but this entire time, that car has been moving forward, and Gap is going to drop dangerously down there to stop it. Needs all the support in the world.
Terra Surge out here from Gap, almost going to be able to find Proven right there, but you really want to be able to find one pick with that, and now you're trying to get rid of Sky Sniper.
Yeah, it was literally one, eventually he's taken out, and now this is where you can start to take some level of momentum back right here. Proven, who's been hanging around, eventually going to TP out. You want to do everything in the world to get rid of them. They're one, and they are gone. Oh, that charge will be gone as well. Dimitri's going to use that ult. Will get Gap, which is honestly massive, because if you can keep Dimitri alive now, you can start pushing up.
Right now, you already see just Amplify backing up here. They don't really want to engage into anything, but the Am just coming out from Consequence might actually force back Tanuki here.
And it will. Virtual's done. You can't work with anything. You're not going to work up towards an extra ultimate. And it's like you could try to push, but with Sky Sniper and Dimitri and everyone, like, there's nothing you can do at this moment.
No, there's really not. And right now, you do see it looks like Tanuki's trying to get back up to that high ground, but it seems like Gap wants to chase here.
Ooh, and Freeze is out there. Sky Sniper has a freeze as well. It's going to wall themselves off. Still getting frozen, but managing to stay alive. A Sky Sniper already got the first pick in this rough scenario as Gap, again, goes out, takes a big risk, and I think in a sense, unnecessarily.
Yeah, they didn't need to do that. It would have been smarter just to back up, especially with 3 members on the cart right now from Tanuki. It's going to be very difficult for Amplify to hit a good attempt to get back and stall this.
Yeah, Otters, as the one ult available, is going to have to eventually drop when Biz drops out of this thing. And here they go. Mega aggressive freeze on the floor. Doesn't have ice block to work with anymore. Beat being thrown back the other way. 2 meters, 1 meters, less than that sitting by as Gap's coming out on the monkey. But it's not going to matter. Minute and a half difference. Going to be in place for Tanuki as Amplify. I mean, they found some footing near the end, but that first and second point, they were just pushed right through.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it really just seemed like coming out of the gate, that Symmetra really just threw him for a curveball. I don't know if Amplify was truly expecting it at all. And the fact that Proven stayed on the sim the entire rest of the map is something that I didn't really expect to see either. But they were just on such a tear that there was no reason for them to, especially with Gap going over to that Orisa. I thought, I understand why they're doing it, but you had a Mei and you had a Sim, 2 heroes that can just kind of forego a lot of stuff that Fortify can do and a lot of stuff that Spear Spin can do, just eating a bunch of damage because it's a beam, it just goes right through it. But I mean, I still understand why Gap did that. However, I think Proven on that Sim was excellent there for Tanuki. And now on the defensive side here right now, I mean, they're not going to have the same kind of luxury that Amplify has, being able to go through a lot of these heroes and make and pick your perks here. But it seems like, I mean, we're going to see Amplify come right back out with what they did their first time around. Otters on the Zenyatta. That's going to be the person I'm really watching for a lot here. Zenyatta can do a lot of damage and provide a good amount of healing, but you're really looking for that Discord Orb. Bisto back on the Mei. They did really good the first time around. You really need them to do even better this second time around.
100%. Got to make it happen. You see Proven just sitting by like an assassin waiting for their target to go through. And honestly, if it is Otters, Otters is not going to know what hit them. Otters, fortunately, does know what's hitting them, as Virtual just going to have to get out on this occasion. But Sky Sniper gets taken down really early, which should open up the door here for Amplify.
And right now, you need to get rid of Dimitri here. That will buy you so much space. You buy Virtual, and right now, you just basically see Tanuki just saying, okay, we're going to stall out this card. And hey, Virtual or Proven might be on the best hero to stall at the moment.
Yeah, install they 100% will. And now, first fight taken care of, out of the way. The second one, though, is going to be a lot more difficult to deal with right now. Ultimates are never a factor for anyone. Proven's going to go back over to that Pharah, but decides better of it, goes back to the Venture.
And no ultimate, yeah, like I said, no ultimate's really built up here. So again, it's going to be another pretty dry fight. And if you're Amplify, you really need to think that's to your advantage here, especially attacking. And with especially how far Proven's going in, but they're able to get out.
Yeah, that was crazy. Gap is sitting super low, separated away. He almost gets hit with the accretion, but it's Dimitri who ends up going down. Biz, though, ends up getting assassinated right in front of their entire team as Proven. He's going to try to cause separation of everybody, make everybody's life a living hell back there, and that's 100% what they're doing, getting rid of another, single-handedly killing that back line. 73 meters is all that will be obtained. In consequence, unfortunately, not able to get that all out in time.
Yeah, and I mean, it just happens like that sometimes. But hey, if you're Amplify, you would have liked to get it a little bit further in that first point if you were going to be stopped probably closer to that first point. But you're not necessarily in the worst spot. You just have to play a really sound defense. You don't have to necessarily go up and hold that first point. You could just hold the first little bridge here, the first catwalk, essentially. But it puts you at a point where no matter what, if you lose a team fight, you're probably losing this map as well. So you have to pick your poison. Do you give them that first turn, or do you try to hold very closely and then say, hey, if one person dies, either we back out or we all die very quickly. And right now, didn't expect to see Ryan, but it's an option. It is definitely an option, but I like what we're seeing from the other side as well. Dimitri's showing us that they're at least getting the Zarya perks here. And before going back over to the Sigma, which I think the Sigma has been incredible throughout this map so far. And when I looked at stats here, I mean, almost 40,000 damage mitigation. They have been doing work on that hero.
But yeah, and they're going to reach 40,000 and even higher, more than likely. But now, It's down to Gap and this Amplify squad to make this work, because this is something that could fall apart very easily as Dimitri gonna decide to opt over to the Zarya at the last second.
And I like it. I like the Zarya being able to melt a lot, but you need these kind of plays early on from Ivory and the rest of your DPS, on, especially if you're going to be holding this first corner.
Yeah, and now they're going to go for the assassination attempt on the Sky Sniper, and it is successful, stomping them out immediately. And now this is where you're seeing Dimitri swap over to the Ramatra very quickly.
And hey, great swap here for them. They want to be able to do a lot of damage to Gap here. Well, guess what? Remember, Nemesis form, the plunges do go through the shield, and it does force them back a little. And at the same time, poke ability. That's one thing you always see a lot from Dimitri. You want to be able to get, or from Ramatra, you want to be able to get that into that backline here a little bit. But Gap right now might be thinking it's time for the backup here, especially as proven back over to the venture.
Yeah, literally has to die on the cart now at this point. It's going to pin in, not going to get anything, and everybody just needs to die on this cart on the spot. Biz is going to do the exact same thing. Luckily, it's going to be able to freeze out, so this is going to get an ability to get everybody going, but Biz is going to be way behind as Gap's going to swap.
Gap now going over to the Orisa, Ivory over to the Symmetra. Just get everyone out here. They know they have to get back fast, so the Sim just for the TP. Ivory now going over to Cassidy. So they're going to have to play up from that high, actually no, over to the Ash. They're going to be playing from that high ground, and because of where that golden box of victory is, Ivory should be able to get a decent amount of value, but I have the feeling they will eventually have to fall down to that low ground. But that cart now within that box.
Yeah, and trying to hold on to those ults as long as they can. Consequence, the one person you didn't want going down, that's what happened right now. Dimitri could be, honestly, I was expecting them to get speared off the edge potentially, but unfortunately it doesn't happen. And now the inevitable will come by as Virtual. Little victory at Matrix right here as they're going to take themselves over to match point. It's going to be Tanuki Tapire. I mean, definitely a close one once again, but they make the appropriate swaps and it just works so easily.
Yeah, and definitely, again, another map where Amplify did get better, but again, Tanuki, like you said, made the appropriate swaps. And I also think the first attacking phase, that second round, they really came out on a composition that Amplify wasn't necessarily expecting, and Amplify at the same time didn't necessarily, I think, make the right swaps. I talked about seeing that Orisa come out from Gap, and while I understood why they did it, you were going into two beam characters that really disregard a lot of the stuff that you do on that Orisa. Yeah, Fortify does at least lower the damage for a moment, but especially with a hero like Sim, once that beam gets up to level 3, once that Fortify goes away, you're gonna be melted. Or I think a lot of times that we saw there, once that beam got up to level 3, they kind of just focus on anyone else, it seemed.
Yeah, because people can get burnt away that easily. Symmetra, once you get that full beam charge, you can out heal a lot of support that can even come through. There's not a whole lot you can do in that scenario. That's why in a lot of these early fights, you want to go after that Symmetra one right away. And that's what they kind of did in some scenarios. And when they did, honestly, most of the time it ended up working out. Unfortunately, it's not that simple because, unfortunately, Proven was really good at breaking everybody's angles with the TPs. We saw that on second point pretty heavily used. And honestly, we're going to a map where, honestly, they could still pull it off again as, haha, forgot Runasapi 1 is bugged. Haha, pretend like Runasapi's on your screen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a map where you could see Sim, but I don't necessarily know if it's the best map for Sim. Yeah, TP strategies do come in a lot here if you're going to be playing the Sim, but I don't necessarily know if it's the best one. However, first ban will be the Orisa coming out here. And in a weird roundabout way, I feel like that kind of helps out Amplify here a little bit. Just making sure that if Tanuki is going to play a Sim, that, you know, you're not going to be melted down a little bit. However, if you're Amplify, your backs are against the wall here. You already have Tanuki on the series point here. You just have to kind of play your own kind of map here, because you have shown us, especially on Circle Royale, it was a much improved map. But the moment you started to drift away a little bit from what you were probably wanting to do, it really started to fall apart for you there.
No, that's exactly what happened there. And they put in that effort to make something happen, which you have to appreciate because not every team is willing to make those swaps, to try different things and make it happen. That's what you have to do in the Overwatch 2 that we live in nowadays. And you respect that. But also, Tanuki went in and did the exact same thing back. And it ended up working out brilliantly pretty much every time they have done it. But at the same time, Amplify has proven that they have the ability to fight back in these scenarios. And now it is more about finishing that execution.
Yeah, Absolutely, but again, like I said, Amplify, that was a much better map for them. Everyone kind of stepped up, and like I said, I probably touched on Biz a little bit too much for map 1, but map 2, I mean, they had a much improved map. I mean, they really did help their team out a lot in that map throughout it. Ivory, again, kind of keeping up their same pace. No one on Amplify, I think, had a bad game. I think just Tanuki coming out in that second round was able to hit them with a punch that I just don't think they were necessarily expecting, and it took them a little bit to really correct it all. And it was, by the time they were able to, it was just a little bit too late.
Yeah, that is unfortunately what happened, and it's an unfortunate situation, obviously. But either way, we got to get this third and, unfortunately, potentially final map figured out here. As we do know our bans going into Runasampi, as it's going to be Orisa and Sojourn getting banned away.
Again, the Orisa's not necessarily a big shock to me. This has been kind of the go-to for a lot of these teams making swaps, so it's not necessarily a surprise to see it be banned out. The Soj, though, I understand this one a lot. This map, good high ground spots throughout. Soj being able to, you know, slide and jump up to them makes it very good for a map or this map is very good for that reason. So getting rid of her is a really good one. So I think there's 2 good bans coming out here. But right now, it's going to be interesting to see what we see. It does seem like we have subs coming back in. Squeak back in for Dimitri this time around. For the side of Tanuki, and on the other side, it looks like Angel Avocado, or yeah, Vallada, Angel.
We'll go with Angel. We'll go with Angel. But either way, yeah, out on the Cassidy, which Cassidy is something we expected to see in this series. Haven't really gotten the chance to see it, but now that's going to be the case as another on Mauga. Currently, no Mauga on the scene. As Squeak gonna go out on that Jungle Queen gap, gonna bring back out the hazard.
Yeah, if you missed it earlier today, we saw a Malgo v Malgo battle on this map in South America. But Jungle Queen coming back out here for Squeak. Remember how good they were in map 1 on that Jungle Queen, so not necessarily a big surprise. Gap on this hazard, I like it a lot. It just needs to be able to find a little bit of momentum here first. But hey, find the first pick. That gives you some momentum.
Yes, we're going to use Shout. He's going to have to try to find an aggressive route, and thanks to Proven, a little bit of aid will do so, unfortunately. Can't find a second one to work with. Hex, middle of nowhere now as Otter's going to finish them off, and unfortunately all you can do as Virtual is just wait and pray as Otters gets 3K to start things out.
Lucio, you love to see that there. And honestly, if you're Amplify here, this is the site you're looking for. You want to get a good thing going, and you're able to find that here. And now you're casually just pushing this barrier here. One more team fight gets you those forward spawns, which again, a lot of times we do see a team cap these forward spawns within the first 2.5 minutes. And right now, I mean, Gap kind of watching that side room while Squeak is right back there to contest the bot.
Yeah, and right now we see Angel in the background contesting away with Proven. It is a pure 1v1, but eventually you're going to see help have to go their way as there are an entire other fight happening right on to the point. As Gap is kind of forced to kind of give attention to both directions, where unfortunately it is causing them to get hit from every side imaginable as that block has run out.
Oh my god! But to find Sky Sniper to the trade, you will get traded out right here, but still, if you're, I was gonna say, if you're Amplify, you feel confident in this one with Virtual and Proven now taking over.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the cleanup right there. Proven their own 3K as Bot gonna start heading the other direction as Sky Sniper went over to that Freya now.
Yeah, decided the Genji was not gonna be a good choice here, or they weren't having a lot of fun on in those first couple fights. Going over to the Freya instead allows them to play in that backline a little bit more and just be able to get a lot of good take aim shots onto a big target like Gap. Well, they'll be able to build that ultimate pretty quickly here. But you look, the lead's gonna go over here to Tanuki here for the moment, but you have 4 or 5 ultimates coming up online here for Amplify.
Yep, cleanse has been used. Biz though thought about going in for that pulse, but unfortunately being pushed back pretty heavily as Squeak is going to be taken out. Proven not far behind as unfortunately Sky Sniper, while they do manage to find one, this is going to be a really tough one to bring back, but they managed to get rid of 2. Hanging around, unfortunately Virtual isn't able to TP out in time, and eventually cleanup comes through as 4 ultimates now sitting on the board here for Amplify.
Yeah, a really good fight there by Amplify, not using more than 2. The fact that Angel was the only one that actually used an ultimate, it leaves him in a really good spot here. You're gonna have your own Kitsune Rush in the downpour from Gap. Might just be enough to really win it. Oh, and honestly, hell, the downpour from Gap on its own might just be enough to win a fight here. It might force out the beat from the other side, which is what you're really looking for.
Yep, Otters is also gonna expend their own beat, so being traded out as Gap is gonna go for it. Gap, though, not sure if they got a whole lot from that one, as Squeak literally gets every ult in the world thrown right at their face, and eventually it's gonna blow over. Hex can't hang around any longer. Nice Sniper close on the ultimate, but no cigar, as eventually gonna see the lead go back over to Amplify. And honestly, the way things are, they should get that forward spawn.
Yeah, they should get forward spawns here, but if you're Squeak, you're feeling really good about yourself, considering you saw all 4 ultimates thrown at you, and it took till the last one to have it to kill you.
Yeah.
And now look at Tanuki here. 3 ultimates. That Rampage is one I'm looking at a lot here. Yeah, Kiri can cleanse it, but you really want to find the most value with that being together, and that's exactly what Tanuki's trying to bait them into here, playing Barry together.
Yep, very nice of Gap blocking off all that damage. Unfortunately, it's still taking a ton anyway. Barely managed to be kept alive here at 64 meters on the board, and Squeak has a Rampage ready to go, but Sky Sniper hoping to eventually find something with this bullet shot. Unluckily for them, though, you can see how well Amplify are just playing back, making them come to them. Unfortunately, Proven took the battle very effectively.
Proven already finding 2 here. This one looking for more. Doesn't have the pulse bomb ready to go, but really doesn't need it, as the rest of their team just cleaning up the fight here. And honestly, with that kind of stagger right there, Biz and Angel are going to be able to get those forward spawns. For the rest of the team, well, different story. And if you're Biz and Angel, you might just want to try to back out and regroup. However, with where that barrier is, I understand why they're probably pushing up, just to make sure they can contest it just long enough for their team to get here. But again, Hunter, look at the ultimates coming online for Tanuki. About to have a Rampage, Pulse Bomb, Bola, and a Kitsune Rush with Virtual. Not afraid to use those early.
And not at all. This could be massive if it comes through, and now you're hoping to get a Cleanse out. Cleanse goes out, and it catches onto both members. Consequence in Gap in a lot of trouble. Consequence has to TP out, eventually getting taken down, and everyone can just die on the point. Let's try to steal it away momentarily, and now the lead is going to be in danger as the spawns come through.
Yes, so forward spawns there for Tanuki. Still 4.5 minutes to go, but you look at Tanuki, a beat and a bullet shot ready to go. And back over to the side of Amplify. Well, there's all 5. They can get out here to contest, and Biz give you the one to contest just to hold on to their lead. Deadeye, though, from Angel here early on.
Yeah, and the bot was stolen away momentarily. Unfortunately, Biz pays the prices. Gap is there, too, and it feels like they have sacrificed a lot to move this momentarily, as Gap is going to be kept up. Otters is thinking about using the beat back, and in fact is going to. Gets both back momentarily, but now everything being thrown directly into Hex as they're eventually deleted. Sky Sniper in a rough scenario, so is Virtual, and the eventual payoff will come through. It takes a lot on both sides. In fact, that's 4 ultimates on the side of Amplify to make that happen.
Yeah, again, though, if you're Amplify, you needed that. You want to reset these spawns, and yeah, Proven was there for a brief moment to stall it out. And I think it actually worked out. Everyone got those forward spawns, so this could be another quick fight. Because right now, if you're Tanuki, you win a team fight here, you're going to be able to get the lead, basically. However, if you give up the forward spawns, again, it's going to be hard for you to get the lead with only 1 fight win.
Yeah, it really is going to be difficult. They tried getting the forward spawns. Didn't happen, as Gap eventually going to get out even after getting knifed. Has all the care in the world, has all that block, as Biz managed to get rid of Proven. Put a pulse bomb right around the corner, and now no ultimates for either side still, as Gap is going to keep pushing. And unfortunately for Tanuki, they got to keep running.
And Gap has been a consistent player throughout this entire series right now for Amplify. They struggled to start off, but they really found their footing, I think, last map, and now they're putting it all together here again. They're now back to the barrier and heading on to their lead, already up to 10 here with 3 minutes left to go, but Sky Sniper getting rid of Otters and Proven in that backline, getting rid of Biz. I mean, right now, Hunter, you're seeing one of the situations again where it's just die on bot.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're going to do. Everybody will get the forward spawns. Everyone gets the group back together. And this is going to be a really weird scenario, because honestly, if I'm them, I'm trying to take an aggressive fight near the center if possible, because the ult disparagement right now is very heavy.
Yeah, I'm with you as well, that they really should be doing it, but instead, they're just going to give it up. Biz is there to try to contest it for a little bit, maybe draw some attention.
There we go.
But no, here comes the engagement. You want to get some of these ultimates out, and that Kitsune Rush is a huge one out early.
Yeah, but Otters pretty much jumps right into the mosh pit. Unfortunately, doesn't quite work out. As they're all being taken out, And the bright side is you get 2 ultimates out, which is not bad all things considered, but the way things have gone, it's looking like they're probably going to lose this lead.
Unless they can get out very quickly. Otters is there to speed them out, but it's going to be very, very hard to really hold on to this lead right now. 2 minutes left to go here. You will have Kitsune Rush and the downpour, but that lead, Biz is there to contest it, but they need a lot more support. The lead going to go over to Tanuki.
Have exactly what you wanted. Tanuki now have themselves in prime territory to end this series early, as gonna see them rush forward, gonna take over a bunch of space. Proven has been taken down. You realize that you just want to go and install this out, but instead they're gonna ult and cap. Doesn't get hit with the cleanse, so now this went from potentially done to extremely winnable, and now it's in their favor without it being taken out. Pulse Bomb misses on top of it. This is disastrous for Amplify.
A minute 20 right now. If you Amplify, you just back out of this one. However, Consequence is waiting for Otters to get far enough away to where they can safely do it. Angel, okay. The Deadeye coming out there, Gap accidentally walled them off there for a brief moment, but the Deadeye gonna go by the wayside here, other than just buy some time. But time is not on their side here, Hunter.
Not at all. The bright side is you're probably going to stop this right here at 95 meters. Squeakscope is going to move in. Is not going to get that Carnage out on time. Virtual is going to help stall this even further, though. Jumping around, hanging around here with Sky Sniper. But eventually, they're going to be picked off a little later into the game as Sky Sniper is still hanging around way in the back. And with the way they're going to die here, they are not getting forward spawns.
Not getting forward spawns, but Proven might not also get them as well. It looks like they came to support their fallen Freya teammate there. But right now, the best thing that you could do if you are Tanuki, just back out. You have this lead. You're coming up to 4 ultimates. You're in a really good spot, and you only have to deal with really 2. Consequence needs to build up to their own Kitsune Rush here pretty fast to really, in my opinion, give Amplify a good chance here in this fight, or this downpour needs to find everything.
That downpour finds one person, Sky Sniper, who's literally right there. Unfortunately, doesn't get caught out. Beat is available for both sides. And now it's Consequence that needs to get this rush online ready to go. Sitting at 95%. Gap had to go cut themselves away. Is getting pushed back harder and harder. It's going to get deleted. And now it's Tanuki trying to close it out. Biz, though, hanging around. Pulse Bomb in hand. Hoping to try to somehow clutch this one back. Has to throw it into the nether. Will catch directly onto Hex. Jumping around his points. He's gonna keep taking away faster and faster. The team falling around the Biz. No more support as Sky Sniper comes back on the Sombra, but it's not necessary as Tanuki Tapire gonna get another win under their belts in 3-0 fashion.
Just a good map here overall, and a good series overall for Tanuki. Like we said, coming into this series, they'd only played 2 throughout the season so far. Well, hey, going into their next game 2-1 is looking really, really good. Amplify, though, I mean, even with this being a 3-0 sweep, they did keep it competitive at times. They did get better throughout this series, and this last map here being the closest one of the series, it really does show you that they could have been in this one a little bit better if some stuff had just broke their way. So if you Amplify, hey, again, not necessarily the result you're looking for, but there is good things to take away from this. And honestly, going back and watching the film on this one and going back to the lab might actually be what you need here now, especially with the upcoming schedule you have.
I mean, yeah, 100%. And that's just the way kind of things have gone down. And it's a rough situation, obviously. But it's a long season at the end of the day. You've only played so many games so far. There's plenty of time to bounce back and make something happen. But for Tanuki, I said how important it was for them to win this based on how their schedule is. And now with the momentum that they have, some of these games where they might have been more even, maybe they're able to carry that momentum further and keep pushing themselves higher and higher and higher, because you get that cushion once you start off really strong and you have that ability to say, okay, we can take a loss here and there without feeling too bad about it. It's when you're in a situation like you are with Amplify, with Shikigami, where you're further behind than you would hope out the gate, and now you're going to be fighting from behind for most of the season to get where you want to be.
Yeah, but all it takes is one little change to something, and you might be in a meta or have a couple heroes that work out really well for your team here. But I mean, I'm just gonna talk about Tanuki here for a moment. I mean, and most importantly, I want to talk about the tanks here with Squeak and Dimitri. Squeak showed us 2 really great maps. I think Dimitri showed us probably the best map of the night here from a tank perspective. They did so much on that second map, playing exclusively really just Sigma throughout that entire time. And Hunter, we talked about it. 40,000 damage mitigated. added on to almost 22,000 damage given. They were doing everything and more on that Sigma throughout that entire map. And I think that's what really put Tanuki over the edge there. But going back to what we saw from Squeak, I mean, everything that Squeak showed us tonight, very flexible, was really, really good, especially though, I really got shot at that Junk Queen. You really don't see Junk Queen be played that often in a lot of situations, but it seems like Squeak prefers to play it. They looked very, very comfortable on it, and throughout the night, I thought that was their best tank. But the rest of that team, I mean, me and you have seen Sky Sniper a lot in some of the community leagues, whether it be like BPL or CGL. But we knew how good of a player they were coming into this. They really showed that out, proven again, really good there as well. And then that support line, you really cannot overlook this Tanuki team here, especially 2-1 on the season. Granted, there's been teams that have played a lot more games, but they're eventually going to catch up. And I think the Tanuki team is going to be one that we're seeing towards the top of the leaderboard come season end.
Yeah, I think the possibility is 100% there. They made it last time. They did decently well enough for themselves in the playoffs before. And obviously, you have that drive to be able to get back there and push yourselves even further to make it to that top 2, potentially get into OWCS, because that is what this is about in the situation. Those top 2 teams get to fight in promotion relegation to potentially get there. Fortunately, it didn't end up happening last season, but this is the opportunity, you know, for this potentially happen here and now. But obviously, for Tanuki, hope to see more from them down the line. For Amplify, obviously, you hope for a bounce back from them. It's a rough season last time, but they managed to make their way back in. So this is essentially their redemption season they have going on right here. And even though it is a 3-0, let's make this perfectly clear, that is a very close 3-0 from everything that we saw.
Yes, they had their moments, like I said, throughout this series. They got better as it went on. I mean, they brought us to a 0.3 on Oasis. They kept it very close. We went to overtime on Circuit Royale, and this last map I thought was honestly their best, but it just kind of got away from them at the end as Tanuki was able to find some stuff, really got a lot going once Sky Sniper made that swap over to that Freya. I felt like everything started to click there for Tanuki. So Amplify, again, a very close series, and this is definitely a team that all they need to do is fix a couple things here and there, and you could really see them just get a couple wins in a row and be right back in that conversation for one of the top 8 teams in this region.
Yeah, I think they're 100% going to be a team that's in that conversation as we keep going along. And I'm excited to see that be the case as well. Because, again, they've done it before. They have every right to do it again. But that has to be seen with their games going on further in the season. Obviously, they still have a lot of tough opponents waiting for them here. We talked about what that schedule is going to look like. Their next 3 games include Daystar, In Control, and Emote down mid. In Control, for them, should be a simple enough win based off what we know. But Daystar, Emote down mid, those are 2 of the tougher games. But what we have seen so far from Daystar is that they've lost already. They are vulnerable, perhaps more vulnerable than they were last season. For Emote down mid, though, they looked weak at first, but then suddenly, Cardifan came back, and after a game or 2, they look a little unstoppable now.
Yeah, so I think we're still very early on in the season. That's what we're trying to say. So there's a lot that can still happen here. And for both these teams, I think there's nothing to do but look up for both these ones. But hey, I mean, still a lot more action for these teams left to go this week, though.
Yeah, still plenty of action to come along. And of course, we have more action going on throughout the week as well. This is just our Wednesday games for South America and North America. We have a game tomorrow and on Friday, as I'll pull up the handy-dandy schedule. Tomorrow, we got Iliad Artemis taking on Young and Beautiful at 9 p.m. EST. And then on Friday, little FNO, we got Hivemind taking on Midori. 2 teams which I am very excited about. Hivemind's been playing really well. Midori pretty much picking up where they left off last season, having a really good run to start things out. I'm really excited for that game right there. Hope it ends up being something nice. Because I gotta be honest, Dex, as much as I like going to bed early enough to not suffer at work the next day, I'd be more than happy to see a 3-1 or a 3-2. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I would be too. But I mean, I think it's early in the season, even though we did see a lot more, series go the distance last season early on. I think this season is a little bit different, especially with season 18 just dropping. And like we said, coming in this one, a lot of stuff changed. I think come the games on Friday, you're going to see a lot of these teams playing a little bit differently.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well, but we'll have to see what the case is going to be with these future games, because for tonight, that is going to do it here. And sincerely, thank you all for being here, and thank you, by the way, getting us to 300 followers. Holy crap, did not expect that to happen, but hey, we're here now. We gotta be happy about it. Just make sure to keep supporting all the Go streams, not just with us, but with everyone else who's awesome doing them throughout the community, and people that are keeping the scene strong, whether it is Bullsong, whether it's Motneva, whether it's Spectreon, everyone doing what they can. So once again, thank you all for joining us here tonight. Please join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for some more Faceit League action. Have yourselves a fantastic night.